Cut my music, cut my music. We are live, we are live. Welcome to college football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. We cover everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button. If you like our content, share the video with your family and friends. If you want to support this Rebel Outpost YouTube channel with a donation, just hit the $sign where you make a comment and I'll get to it as soon as I can. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments and with your phone calls later in the show. And I'm going to need help. I got to tell you, I'm going to need help. Now we're going to go, look, we had a late night filing in Leon County, Florida State. And we're going to go through the article, War Chan article, but I cannot find the new filing. Let me show you. Somebody help me out. Somebody help me out because I want to go into it. So this is the Atlantic Coast Conference, the defendant. This is Leon County. This is the Leon County Clerk and Circuit Court. This is what I usually go through. Now, there was something new here, but this was March 26th, not March 27th. There's two of them there. And what I have been told, it is a 10-page document. Neither of the new things that were dropped were 10 pages. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to open up the phone lines here. Somebody give me a call or somebody send me the link to the new filing or somebody tell me what I'm doing wrong. If you've got information on where I can find the new filing, I've been watching for it, but I can't find it. I cannot find it. But it hasn't been updated. Nobody's working, Tom. So it hasn't been filed. It hasn't been updated. But War Chant got the information. We're going to go through War Chant's article. So we've got what it says based upon War Chant. So I guess we'll just hit it. I guess we'll just do that, and then, so it hasn't been updated. So I did not do anything wrong. Is that what people are saying? Is that what people are saying? Probably won't be updated till the morning. Paperwork may have been shared with War Chant. Well, I'm going to share it with you guys. I'm going to share what we know right now, tonight. Now we are doing a live show early tomorrow morning. I think I'm going to start at 8:45 in the morning Eastern Time, 7:45 in the morning Central Time. And we're going to be watching the North Carolina Board of Trustees meeting. Now, I'm going to have to leave about an hour into the meeting, and I'm just going to let it go. So you guys are going to be all alone in the chat. You all have to behave yourself. I got an errand to run, and then when I come back, I'm guessing John Pryor, the chairman of the board, is going to say something later on in the meeting, and then the interim chancellor is going to say something. And people have the belief that they're going to say something here in regards to the ACC. We do not know for sure. We do not know for sure. There was a report. I don't want to say that wrong name. Something came out of North Carolina locally that said they thought somebody was going to say something. I don't remember if it was WRAL or it might have been Inside Carolina 247. It might have been both of them. So we're gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it live. Anyways, let's get to the story. Thank you all for coming. We're gonna do it. We are gonna do it. We're gonna cover this late night breaking story. Wednesday night, something was filed. We can't see it, but we're going to report what we know through War Chant. Again, they're doing an incredible job covering the Florida State versus ACC. Kenneth Bauman is in the house. Jared Jones, the Walking Geek. Don in Kansas. John Bennett, Buckshot Kid. Richard Griswold. Bill G, Rock and Rant, Mr. Hurricane. Rock Chalk J, Hakim, and B, the Husky, Mr. Husky, Ted Evans, Bazoo, John Teal, Kyler Visser, the College Football Mafia, holy smokes, Jamie Thornton, Mrs. Arkansas Razorback. Arkansas has a quarterback battle. Although Jalen Green, you got to give him the rock to begin the season. The Boise State transfer. He showed some stuff at the end of that Mountain West Conference race last year. Can he do it as an Arkansas Razorback? Xmas is in here. JITGT. David Hall. Adam. Jimmy. Penn State is in the house. Charlie Atwood. CFB Plus. PAT After Dark. Marcus Williams. The hot guy is here. Kaufman. Cornelius Green. Praise the Lord. It's never too late to do that. Tyler Brown, MGC Sooner. Gary, Nathan Jones, Cowboy Bob Orton. Cowboy Bob is in the house. Who else is in here? Movie Time Blues. Medea Garcia, I'm having a new tablet. That is the moderator. That is my wife. She's coming in as a different... So the moderator is here. She gave us the green light. I told her what was up. I told her there was late breaking news. I told her that no one... that we weren't going to have big numbers showing up. But I don't care about that. But she said, go ahead. Go ahead. Do it, Greg. So here we are. So Mireya gave us the green light to have some fun here tonight. Son of Sarek, trying to get to sleep. Flugar is on. John D is here. And we all got to get up early. J.D. Turl, Clay's in the house. Why don't you do super chats? We do super chats. We do super chats. Very, very thankful for super chats. The community that never sleeps. Skaven is here. What's keeping the Mad Gopher up at times? From Winnipeg, grassy Winnipeg, not too far away from this location, this studio, Winnipeg, Canada. Doug is in the house. Hidden Hawaii is in the house. Okay, let's get to it. We could have came on about 15, 20 minutes earlier, but I was looking for the link at the Leon County Clerk of Courts, and now I'm being told in the chat it doesn't even exist yet. So I thought I was screwing up. Clint Moses is here. Okay, let's get to it. This is per War Chant. Big breaking news, warchant.com. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the phone off the hook for now. And we'll get to your phone calls right after we get through this. I know a lot of people don't even know that this even happened tonight. It happened late. Iowa Shuffle. About an hour ago. This just happened, ladies and gentlemen. Breaking news. College football's peek around the corner. Doing the best job we can to give you the peek around the corner. Trying to stay up 24 hours a day. Trying to capture everything. Florida State accuses the ACC of deception. Makes clear plan to leave the conference. Basically what Florida State is saying, and we're gone. We're gone. We're out of here. And keep an eye on how Florida State uses past tense, current tense. The way they use the language. They're saying they're gone. They're gone. Florida State is gone. No matter what, we are gone. And I cannot wait to actually see this 10 pages. But again, I guess it hasn't been filed yet. While Florida State, again, War Chant, just breaking news tonight. While Florida State and ACC officials wait for a North Carolina judge to rule on whether the case should proceed there, are we going to get that ruling tomorrow? Are we going to get that ruling on Friday? We all believe we're going to get it before the April 9th when it starts here in Leon County. While Florida State and ACC officials wait for a North Carolina judge to rule on whether their case should proceed there, Florida State attorneys on Wednesday filed a new response in Leon County Circuit Court accusing the conference of several misrepresentations to the court and also making it plainly clear that the Seminoles are planning to leave the league. This was filed Wednesday night. I just can't find the link to it. But I guess hopefully it gets updated tomorrow. Or if it happens during the show, somebody send me a DM on X and I'll get to it. In 3 different paragraphs in the 10-page filing, which was obtained by War Chant late Wednesday, the attorneys used a version of the phrase after FSU exit the ACC, quote unquote, after FSU exit the ACC, as if it is a foregone conclusion. In the Seminoles' original complaint and the amended complaint, both filed in recent months, the language was not used. That language was not used. The language that says after Florida State exit the ACC, that wasn't used until tonight by Florida State in this new filing in Leon County that just happened tonight. And multiple Florida State sources made it clear to War Chant at the time that the university wasn't shutting the door on staying in the ACC. If, for instance, the league's television revenue distribution model was reconfigured to reward Florida State and other schools that bring in the highest TV ratings, so multiple sources were telling War Chant, look, yeah, we filed against the ACC, but it doesn't mean necessarily we were completely shutting the door on the possibility of staying in the ACC. If they reconfigure their revenue sharing, their television revenue distribution model, but now it sounds like Florida State has shut the door, swallowed the key. They are leaving the conference. Such a move always seemed extremely unlikely. Going back to the ACC. Now it appears to be removed from consideration. Throughout the 10-page document, Florida State's response to the ACC's motion to stay discovery in Leon County case, the attorneys accused the conference of repeatedly misrepresenting facts and also reaffirmed their contention that the legal battle should take place in Florida, not North Carolina. 5 words explain why the motion should be denied. To get to the truth, Florida State attorneys wrote, the motion should be denied. The motion that the ACC is trying to say, nah, shut this thing down in Leon County. Motion should be denied to get to the truth. We've got to get to the truth. The ACC has asked for the Leon County case to be paused while North Carolina Judge Lewis A. Bledsoe III rules on Florida State's request to stay or dismiss the conference lawsuit in that state. Arguments were heard on that motion last Friday, and a decision is expected to be delivered before April 9th, which is when the Florida case is scheduled to begin. But, this is about one of 3 PATC money shots this late night, Wednesday, March 27th. If you're living on the East Coast, it is Thursday, March 28th. Money shot number 1. But Florida State points out that the ACC still hasn't even provided Judge Bledsoe III with its television contracts with ESPN, which would be needed to make an informed decision. Not even now. Not even late night, Wednesday night when they filed this. You mean since March, what was it, 22nd? Mecklenburg County, Florida State versus ACC. they're trying to seal that media agreement between the ACC and the ACC. ACC and ESPN is trying to get those documents sealed. And Judge Bledsoe doesn't even, what does he have, like 12 pages out of 100 and some? And Wednesday night, Florida State's perception is that Judge Bledsoe doesn't even have the television contract yet. What is in that media agreement that Florida State, now Clemson, keeps pounding the table on? Holy smokes. The sound and fury in 3 different state courts, Florida, the Carolinas, South and North, are largely over lengthy contracts no one, including the courts, has other than the ACC, the lawyers wrote. The ACC asked these courts to construe the terms and conditions of those ESPN agreements, yet expects those courts to take the ACC's word for those terms. That never ends well. The record thus far demonstrates the extreme hazard of taking the ACC's word for it. What Florida State is saying in this filing, if you just arrived here in the chat room, at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, there was a late filing here Wednesday night. It doesn't look like it's been downloaded yet, but War Chant got the tip. They've got the tip. Florida State sources told them what's in it. 10-page document. And Florida State is hitting hard on the fact that even Judge Bledsoe in North Carolina hasn't seen the full agreement between the ESPN and the ACC. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Florida State's response then cites, this was tonight, several examples where it states the conference has been loose with the facts. The attorneys point to an affidavit provided last month by the University of Virginia President James E. Ryan. We went over that affidavit live when it first broke. The attorneys point to an affidavit provided last month by the University of Virginia President James E. Ryan, the chair of the ACC Board of Directors, explaining why the conference filed its preemptive lawsuit before Florida State filed its own. That's when ACC filed in Mecklenburg County on December 21st before Florida State filed in Leon County on December 22nd. And why the league could do so without a 2/3 vote of the conference membership. They did not take a vote, remember, for that December 21st suit. They did not take a vote. The ACC did not take a vote. Under the ESPN agreements unanimously approved by the conference in 2016, the conference was obligated to take all commercially reasonable actions necessary to protect the media rights that were provided to ESPN under those agreements. Ryan stated in the affidavit. A similar phrase was used in the ACC's amended complaint against Florida State in mid-January. That was January 17th. But Florida State's attorneys argue in their latest filing that limited snippets of a commercially reasonable efforts clause contained in the ESPN agreements were parsed out by the ACC to bolster its case. In other words, the conference acted as if it had no choice but to sue the Seminoles. But when Judge Bledsoe last week requested the official language, not the parsed language, not just tidbits of it, but when Judge Bledsoe last week requested the official language from ESPN's contract defining commercially reasonable efforts This is what the ACC provided. Commercially reasonable efforts with respect to a given goal or objective, the efforts that a reasonable commercial person or entity in the position of party undertaking to pursue such a goal or object would use so as to achieve such goal or objective expeditiously provided. However, that commercially reasonable effort shall not require any party to incur or become obligated to incur an expense not otherwise specifically provided for in this agreement, including fees and expenses of counsel and consultants, or to incur any liability or waive or concede any right or claim that such party may have. The Florida State attorneys contend that the ACC in James, Virginia's president. Now, I don't even know how to say this word. Okay, it means deception. The Florida State attorneys contend that the ACC in James deliberately used legerdemain. Again, when we take phone calls after this, going through this article, someone can let me know how to say the word. Florida State attorneys contend that the ACC in James deliberately used deception, legerdemain, by citing that clause incorrectly. When exposed, the commercially reasonable efforts clause does not in fact require the ACC to take any action. They did not have to sue Florida State. Both the unprovoked ACC complaint and the Ryan affidavit falsely state the commercially reasonable efforts clause imposed upon the ACC a contractual obligation to initiate an action against its own members. So what Florida State is saying here in this filing late Wednesday night, first of all, it's saying, look, Judge Bledsoe in North Carolina, and of course Leon County, none of you have seen the full media agreement between ESPN and ACC. Do not believe what the ACC is telling you in those agreements. Number two, they just very lightly reminded everybody that the ACC did not take a vote for the lawsuit filing, the initial one, on December 21st. They needed to do a 2/3 vote. They did not. And then the response of that from the ACC is about using commercially reasonable efforts for the betterment of their schools, for the ACC. So they had to take action on December 21st. And Florida State attorneys tonight is saying, that's deception. ACC is using that clause incorrectly. The clause commercially reasonable efforts does not in fact require the ACC to take any action. It was a choice. It was a choice for ACC to take action, and they choose to take action a day before Florida State's initial filing, and they did not do that with any legitimacy at all. They did not have a vote on it. Florida State also accuses, again, if you're just joining us, we got new people in here coming on in, on a early Central Time, early Thursday morning, March 28th, 1:02 a.m., 12:02 a.m. Central Time, Florida State filed something in Leon County. They filed a complaint here. It's not downloaded, but War Chant got the story, and we're breaking it to you all. The great job of War Chant. Florida State also accuses the ACC of fudging the truth when arguing the right of Commissioner Jim Phillips to unilaterally grant ESPN 4 additional years. PATC money shot number 2. Again, Florida State's reminding Leon County here. The ACC is fudging the truth when arguing the right, the authority that Commissioner Jim Phillips had to unilaterally do it on his own to grant ESPN 4 additional years from 21. That deadline moved to 2025 to decide whether it will extend ACC's television contract through 2036. And FSU claims the conference has been duplicitous when it accuses the university of violating confidentiality agreements with the league and ESPN. So Florida State is saying, you're accusing us? The conference has been duplicitous when it accuses the university of violating confidentiality agreements with the league and ESPN. When the ACC was forced to provide all the terms of the confidentiality clause, we just went through it, a different story emerged, the lawyers wrote. The actual language of the confidentiality clause is as follows. Each party shall maintain the confidentiality of this agreement and its terms and any other confidential information except when disclosure is ... to each conference institution, provided that each conference institution shall agree to maintain confidentiality of this agreement, subject to the law applicable to each such conference institution. That last phrase is the key, according to Florida State's attorney. The last phrase, subject to the law applicable to each such conference institution. That is what the ACC left out, and Florida State is reminding Leon County, you can't leave that last part out. Subject to the law applicable to each such conference institution. In other words, the state of Florida, for example. Even according to the league's own documents, they claim Florida State and its board could not keep any parts of the ESPN contracts confidential because it would violate Florida law. Even Judge Bledsoe in Mecklenburg County brought that up. Near the end of the 10-page response, 10 pages that I cannot show you because they haven't been downloaded in the Leon County court records. Near the end of the 10-page response, Florida State contends that none of those, however, is the biggest fabrication from the ACC. Holy smokes. That's not even the biggest fabrication. The most, again, this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is the great mystery of this whole case. You know, there was a nuclear bomb set off on December 22nd, 2023 in the Florida State's Board of Trustees meeting when they said, look, ESPN has a way out of this contract. They can walk away and not distribute any more ACC content for 2027 going forward And that deadline was 2021, but it was moved by Jim Phillips to 2025. Nobody knew that. Nobody knew that ESPN could walk out like that. But there's even a bigger bomb. It hasn't gone off yet because we can't see it, but Florida State and Clemson are focusing in on this. Near the end of the 10-page response, Florida State contends that none of those, however, is the biggest fabrication from the ACC. The most substantial misrepresentation concerns whether the ESPN agreements reach the disputed property at all, the lawyers wrote. By disputed property, they are referring to the television rights for Florida State's home football games. ESPN agreements extend only to home games played while Florida State remains a conference institution. After its exit, Florida State will cease to be a conference institution if the ESPN agreements have no application to the disputed property. Then its taking is in no way necessary for the conference to perform the contractual obligations for the conference expressly set forth in the ESPN agreement. So, with Florida State and Clemson, but we'll just focus on Florida State, they're saying there's something in that ESPN agreement with the ACC that somehow, some language in there is saying that if a school leaves, Florida State ceases to be a conference institution, for example, the ESPN has no application to the disputed property. That the conference can still, that ESPN still has to perform the contractual obligations. FSU points out that Clemson is making the same argument in its recently filed lawsuit against the ACC in South Carolina. This was one of the 3 times in the response, this 10-page response filed tonight in Leon County, that we can't show it to you because it's not up for public view yet. Again, War Chant got this information. This was one of the 3 times in the response that Florida State's attorneys referenced leaving the conference as nothing more than a formality. Here were the others. Distilled to its essence, the Florida State Board and the ACC dispute who takes ownership of certain property after Florida State exit the ACC. The ACC's objective is to take that Florida property, the media rights, for the next dozen years after Florida State exit the ACC and ceases to be a conference institution. Florida State's, this is the last part of the article, the Florida State response concludes by asking the court to deny the ACC's motion and to proceed with the case in Leon County. These incidents bring into sharp focus that the ACC's game of hide the ball must end, the lawyers wrote. The ACC's motion to stay discovery must be denied, and discovery must instead be accelerated. The ACC's motion to stay discovery must be denied, and discovery must instead be accelerated. So that is part of the 10-page filing that Florida State filed against the ACC in Leon County Wednesday night. And War Chant's got the story. And again, we can't show you that 10-page. I'm going to open up the phone lines. Give us a call. I'll go through your chats. 763-260-1333. I will say this. We all know what the traditional grant of rights is, why it is used. It's used for the conference to gain better leverage for the institution that it represents when they go into media negotiations with a media partner, a potential media partner. And the grant of rights is basically individual schools given their ownership, media rights of their home games to the conference. And we were always thought to believe that it doesn't really stop a school from leaving, but it just makes that school really not valuable to wherever they're going to go because they can't bring their own media rights with them. The money that is ESPN, if Florida State left tomorrow, ESPN would still distribute Florida State content, and the money would go to the ACC, even if Florida State joined another conference. Florida State and Clemson are arguing in this case that there's something in that media agreement that ESPN basically says, or that we're okay, or something. I don't know what is in there. Nobody knows what's in there. But Clemson and Florida State are basically saying that there's language in there that basically ESPN contract with ACC will continue. We still have an obligation to distribute your content. Nothing will change. But there has to be something more in there. Something about ACC. I don't know. We do not know. We do not know. But Florida State and Clemson keep hitting on it. Now, we do know if I can find it. We do know there's a meeting tomorrow. North Carolina Board of Trustees. 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Central. And we're going to be showing that live here at Peek Around the Corner. So we're going to be having a PATC breakfast.
Call from
JD.
JD. So what is the buzz on this? Look, nobody can see nobody but War Chant probably, but none of us can see the 10-page document. Florida State fired a lot of bullets there. They fired the same one that Clemson did in regards to that media agreement. They want that out there, and ESPN and ACC are doing all they can to make sure that is sealed up. And Florida State, JD, Florida State in this 10-page document tonight is saying that Judge Bledsoe still hasn't seen the full media agreement between ACC and ESPN. What are you thinking, sir? The floor is yours.
There's a lot to unpack. Probably what happened is, Ira Schoffel, he's a great writer. He really is. And I'm sure they've gotten to know some of the attorneys and that they're getting a heads up. So what I'm going to assume is they filed it tonight, got a filing number, So it's in the system. In other words, it's been filed and dated, obviously, but it's just not in the system, and it won't be in there till in the morning. So and once they've got a filing number, I'm assuming that they can give a copy to the media. And I say that might be they just were given a summary. I don't know, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear somebody went ahead and gave them the information because they knew it was a 10-page document. So anyway, it goes to show there's so much to discuss here, and I know I've been blowing up.
Just take your time.
I know I've been blowing up your DMs and other people's DMs the last few days, throwing stuff out there. There's so much movement and so much chatter. It just feels like something big is about to happen. And isn't it just a coincidence that all this movement happened right after the college football playoff negotiations were finalized or were signed off on? I told you about that little conspiracy theory the other day, right?
I'm not buying it unless someone can explain how that even makes sense.
Well, what I think they're alluding to,
okay,
and it's confirmed, and it won't be anything that we ever see. It'll be kind of like the ACC contract where they keep it, under lock and key. But in future realignment, the ACC will stand down to the P2. In other words, they won't try to sue them. Okay? They won't interfere with future realignment. That's all that I can get out of people, and I haven't gotten confirmation of anything. It's just that in future realignment, the ACC will stand down. They won't try to sue either of the P2. They won't try to, in other words, that there won't be any tortious interference. There won't be anything like that. And I don't have it verified. That's just what's being suggested. Okay, if that's the case, if they agree not to do that, it doesn't matter if there's a grant of rights because a team can leave and join one of the P2. And the ACC is not going to stop them. Now, will they sue for damages? Will they sue for breach of contract? Will they sue for millions upon hundreds of millions of dollars? Of course they will. And they might win. But they won't be able to prevent a team from leaving. Well, that's what keeps...
But then you're going to have Wake Forest suing the ACC.
I understand. I understand.
It's a lot of this. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm just saying a lot of this is just way too good to be true, right? I have seen this as well. People are really, Jim Phillips, he's a commissioner of a conference in which his obligation is, I know it's to the betterment of the conference, but it is to actually keep the conference whole. There's other schools in the ACC. If Jim Phillips doesn't do all he can to at least get the biggest price, the biggest money out of these schools that are going to leave, then he's going to get sued from the other end.
Sure.
So in my strongly held opinion, the college football playoff thing just was another log on the fire in terms of Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, possibly some other schools saying, geez, now we are structurally now behind the Big Ten and the SEC. This could help our argument, or at least get us more motivated to do something about it. But that has nothing to do with the grant.
it's like it doesn't void the grant of rights. It doesn't do any of that. And I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying this is what people are saying. Okay, this is what they're implying. It just means that the ACC is agreeing not to sue or interfere.
But why would they do that? I mean, if there is torture,
I don't know. Why did they agree to become a mid-tier conference?
Well, because they had no choice, really.
Well, in this scenario, maybe they didn't have a choice. I don't know. I mean,
I don't know why they give up their right to sue. I think it's just all.
Yeah.
It's just seems too.
Well, the only reason I brought it up was to follow up with what I was saying the other day, because I don't think it's going to necessarily come into play, and I don't think we're ever going to know for sure.
Well, I do appreciate you bringing it up because, I wanted to know what the angle was, and that seemed like that's at least an angle that people are providing on that theory. So,
it's just the thing that keeps getting my attention on it is they're saying now that the ACC brands can leave and nobody can stop them. And I'm like, what do you mean they can't stop them? What? And it's like, the ACC now is contractually obligated to stand down. When you use that kind of language, it just opens up. I mean, you want to talk about a rabbit hole the size of a a football field. My goodness, you don't even know how to process that.
Yeah, I did ask about that theory, but I got nothing back. So I'll ask again. But you would think some reporter would report on it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guarantee it's deep in the contract, just like the things that we're finding out now. And now you see from Clemson's filing and how it relates to FSU's filing tonight that, the grant of rights might say that it goes to a certain date, but the grant of rights are very clear that they specifically support the ACC ESPN contract. And now it's FSU is suggesting, and so is Clemson, that the contract makes it clear it represents the member institutions in the ACC, not institutions outside of the ACC. So if that's the case, it doesn't matter what the grant of rights say, because the contract contradicts that. I'm wondering why ESPN has that in there, and I'm not a lawyer, but if an ACC contract could also represent non-members, I don't know, maybe that opens up new liabilities for ESPN. I don't know, and it might be financial liabilities to former members. So ESPN, makes it clear, it only represents members of the ACC, members that would be under the umbrella of this contract. And so that's just my speculation tonight. But anyway,
there's something in there, right? I mean, I just don't know what it is.
There's stuff everywhere. There is stuff everywhere, and there are reasons why the movement has started in the last week. Because, I mean, am I wrong to suggest the acceleration has increased tenfold in just the last week?
I mean, Clemson did file right on the day that it became all official that ESPN, that the college football playoff manager committee, whatever you call them, they agreed with the ESPN deal of $1.3 billion. So Clemson filed on that exact same day. But Clemson's been looking at this for 10, 11 months. I don't know what's in that media agreement, but there's something there, and Clemson really, really hit it, and Florida State's hitting again tonight, and now Florida State is saying in the filing tonight that Judge Bledsoe out in Mecklenburg still doesn't have the full contract between ESPN and ACC. So I think whatever that is they think that's the Achilles heel of the ACC grant of rights. And I don't think it has anything to do directly with the college football playoffs. I just think that was, more motivation. But
yeah, I mean, you like I said, I'm not going to subscribe that it's 100% true that conspiracy theory has some validity. It's just that so many people are bringing it up. But anyway, did you have a chance to look at, I sent you something yesterday talking about the ACC has already pretty much applied a valuation to the grant of rights.
Yeah, I saw that. It was interesting. The 6 to 18 million part.
It was 6 to 18 million back in 2012, and then somebody else had figured out the rate of inflation between then and now is about 35%, which means, and then I just kind of did the math on my own, that would mean about 24 million a year. So that means after the 2024 season, there would only be 2 more enforceable years to the grant of rights, because the ACC contract, even though it ends in 27, it's still the 2026 season is the last season, unless it's extended. Which means the most the ACC could contractually even conceive on getting by the contract is $200 million, right at $200 million. The $140 million exit fee, and then 2 years of their own valuation of the granted rights, because they're the ones that establish the value to it. Okay?
Yeah.
So that translates. So the most they could expect to get is $200 million as of today. So I don't see how they could contractually expect to get more, or they could ask the court that they should get 500 and something million when they are the ones that have already applied a value to the grant rights. They did that in 2012.
Yeah.
But anyway,
and they're gonna bring that all the way out to 2036.
Well, that's what they're going to try to do, but then they're not going to be able to approve that the grant of rights goes past, technically, for the 2026 football season. Yeah. But anyway, all right. Well, anyway, like I said, I'll be out looking for more conspiracy theories to call in about.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Great call.
Thanks. All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, Clemson became more valuable. The evaluation became more valuable the day that CFP playoff structure was set in stone. Because they've been to the playoffs. They've won more championships. So if they would go to the SEC would be able to take some more of the higher percentage. So Clemson became more valuable. But Clemson's been working on this before the CFP stuff. So.
Call from
Cowboy Bob.
Cowboy Bob, thanks for calling, sir. The floor is yours.
All right, appreciate it. Great content. The only thing I wanted to, and I'll be quick, the only thing I wanted to point out was just what stood out to me. And maybe it's posturing, who knows, not a lawyer, but the fact that Clemson and FSU, who known to work together, be in lockstep, that they're going after sort of the concept of grant of rights in general. I thought that was interesting that, because that was in Clemson's first filing.
Yes.
And then Florida State releasing this
Yes.
shortly after. I'm not sure what it means, but that just seems like something that, is important, maybe could point in different directions as far, and again, maybe a bluff, maybe a posture, because who knows with lawyers. But I thought that's what stood out. That's all I wanted to point out.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Thank you, Cowboy Bob. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Beautiful call. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Mr. Hawkeye, yes, Clemson worked on it for a long time, didn't pull the trigger.
Call from
Jamie Thornton.
Jamie Thornton, the floor is yours. How you doing, Mrs. Arkansas Razorback?
I couldn't be doing better, Greg. I'm watching the Late Show with Greg Flugar, PATC, and things are heating up, and I don't know if it's that Arkansas quarterback battle or all this stuff going on in the ACC. I'm not quite sure. It's one of the two. Maybe it's both of them. I don't know. But, Greg, I want to know what's in that. What is in this media deal?
I don't know.
No, Immaculate and I were talking about it. What is in there that they don't, we already know, of course, about the 2027 option that blew everybody out of the water, but what is in there that, that they want this?
There's something in there that Clemson truly believes that they can argue that if they leave the conference tomorrow, they would be able to bring their conference rights with them. They wouldn't have to pay anything on the grant of rights. And on their exit fee, Clemson says maybe we'll pay something, but ain't nowhere close to the 3 times the operating budget because whatever. But there's something in there that Clemson says, see ya, because that grant of rights is so limited, and there's something in that agreement that basically says that ESPN's okay, ACC's okay if we leave. That's what Florida State is saying as well. But none of us have seen that agreement. They want it out in public. ESPN is saying it's trade secrets. They're not even giving the whole thing to Judge Bledsoe yet. Judge Bledsoe, according to what Florida State filed tonight, Judge Bledsoe of Mecklenburg County still has not seen the entire agreement between ACC and ESPN. Remarkable.
I mean, I don't want to speculate, but it's a whopper. I mean, there's something in there.
Yeah.
And obviously with the kind of language that, and we were all laughing about it when ESPN said that about possible felonies committed by Florida State, but it's obvious now. And the way this is rolling, I'm telling you, there's something going on there that they've got, and who knows what. I mean, it's I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever find out or if anybody ever will find out with the way things are going. But that's definitely the $1 million question right now. And it's going to be an interesting day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's already starting that way. The whole North Carolina situation is a whole nother thing.
Yeah, I mean, and so we're going to be watching that North Carolina. First of all, if you're new to the show or if you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to College Football's Peek Around the Corner. Hit the subscribe button, smash the like button, have your notifications on. We're going to be coming on live early tomorrow morning. North Carolina Board of Trustees meeting is starting at 9 o'clock Eastern. So we're going to come on about 8:45 Eastern, 7:45 Central, 5:45 Pacific Time, 6:45 Mountain Time. Okay? Have your notifications on. What we're going to do is we're going to show it live. We're going to have the volume on. We do not believe we're going to get in trouble with YouTube. So we're going to show it live. We're not guaranteeing anything, ladies and gentlemen. But as Jamie said, it's going to be very interesting to watch what happens in that meeting later in the meeting. I don't think it's going to happen within the first couple hours, but later in the meeting, John Pryor, the chairman of the board, the chairman of the board of trustees at North Carolina, who was just right when Clemson filed, he had a whole bunch of things to say in support of Clemson, by the way. One of the things that John Pryor said, he wants North Carolina to be able to have meaningful conversation, just like what Clemson said in their lawsuit in Pickens County against ACC. John Pryor wants North Carolina to have the ability, and he's saying, shame on the ACC, we should be able to have meaningful talks with other conferences. So we are interested in seeing what John Pryor says tomorrow. It's been reported locally that he is going to say something. We don't know for sure, but we're going to cover it. People in the chat, as we're watching it, people can comment, and we'll see if something happens. But continue on, Jamie.
Yeah, and I have more on that. You know, you talked about with the Holy Smokes Theater update, you had talked about where you might have to take a small L on the Clemson and USC holding hands, so it's more like maybe an embrace.
Yeah.
I was talking to Immaculate earlier tonight, and I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you, but I got to talk to someone who's got direct ties, direct connections with somebody on that North Carolina Board of Governor. And let me tell you, NC State feels like they're in a pretty good place here. I will just say that much. It's going to be so interesting to watch because I want everyone to keep in mind, you've mentioned this too, it's going to be interesting to see if UNC files when they do. I don't think there's any doubt they will. But what goes on there between them and North Carolina State, he feels like that NC State either has that invite waiting for them from the SEC through third-party talks. Of course, there's no, like you said so many times, there's nothing that's been handed out officially to anyone.
No.
But they either feel like that or they feel like they're going to walk home with a good amount of money out of this.
Yeah.
So it's just fascinating. North Carolina is going to it's going to be like a real-life soap opera because you're going to have a lot of people, too. When UNC files, you're going to have a lot of people in North Carolina that are shocked. They didn't see it coming. I mean, you've seen some of the people reaction with Clemson, but the whole UNC thing.
There is a pro ACC faction at North Carolina. Now, there is, the pro SEC faction have taken over control. We first reported that months ago. I think everyone else finally caught on to that a few months ago. There was a pro Big Ten faction. They're still there, but they're in the minority. But there's also that third party, that pro ACC faction is still part of the North Carolina fabric. I think they're gonna wither away if somebody is officially able to get out of the grant of rights or get a settlement on it. But so North Carolina is, well, actually they're probably more aligned now than they've been for years.
That's what I got from him. He told me that they are so convinced that North Carolina, if they leave the ACC, they are going to the SEC. Yeah. And they think that North Carolina State, I mean, it's just that much at this point where the Big Ten people have been pushed. And if this had happened 5 years ago, like you said, this would be a whole nother story. But the people that have taken over there, the people in charge, I'm kind of surprised. I think you said it the other day that Bubba Cunningham still has a job. I don't know how much longer he'll have one, to be honest with you. But, yeah, I mean, just what I got from talking to him, it's like serious that, it's just going to be interesting to see the whole NC State perspective. I know there's been a lot of talks before about this with other schools. We saw UCLA and Cal, and, of course, they were the first one ever where there was a penalty, essentially where UCLA has to pay Cal money, right? Because there was all the talk about Texas. They'll never get out and go to the SEC. The legislation there will stop them. Of course, that didn't happen nowhere else. But North Carolina is going to be the first one that's going to be very interesting to watch. So it's like you said, this is going to be a huge day. Thank you for all you do on that. But it was just interesting, and I'll send you some of the DMs later on that. Interesting talking to him about what's going on. And don't think it won't get political either.
Well, it's
on
already
top of
political.
everything
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
All right. Thank
so
you,
it's going to be a
Jamie.
fun day. Thanks for coming on late, Greg.
You got it.
Blue Pick
Appreciate
City.
it. Thank you. Test subject 38. Whoa, a live show while I'm at work. I usually only get the replays. Keep up the good work. Great show. Thank you, test subject 38. I'm very happy you're able to get a live show while at work. I hope we're giving you a little bit of good entertainment, a little bit of good information. We can't give you a whole lot of good information because that 10-page file that Florida State did Wednesday night has not been uploaded.
Call from
Tristan Fibes.
Tristan is on the line. The floor is yours. How are you doing, sir?
I'm fine. How you doing, Greg?
Good. Can you just hold on 1 second? I just want to thank Test Subject 38 for his generosity to our show. Thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you so much. Okay, Tristan, go ahead. Let it rip. What are you thinking, sir?
Okay, so we're all kind of surprised that there's this possible language somewhere in the contract that would let a school like Clemson depart without too much hassle, right?
Well, I would be shocked, but I'm just one person. I think, yes.
Yeah, so that's the surprise twist here. So let me remind you of an old rumor and see if this might be a factor in all of this.
Okay.
If you remember, there were rumors of Florida State and Clemson departing the ACC back around the 2010-2011 timeframe, and they put the kibosh on that. ESPN did.
Wait,
once
can
Notre
you back
Dame
up?
expressed.
Can you start over again?
Okay, so
there's a rumor.
There was the ESPN scroll announcing that FSU and Clemson were set to join the SEC. Right, their little news ticker at the bottom.
Yeah, and when was that?
That was prior to Notre Dame joining partially the ACC.
Okay. Continue
right.
on. Okay.
So the story goes that once Notre Dame expressed interest, ESPN put an end to that because it was a condition of Notre Dame that those two schools had to stay in the ACC. So what I'm thinking is there's a possibility that I know that story is true, by the way, and most people don't realize it, but they were very close to joining the SEC. I think what might have happened is that when Notre Dame came onto the scene and then ESPN did an about-face, they may have put language into this contract so that if things didn't work out with Notre Dame, it would still be possible to get those schools out of the conference without too much hassle.
So there might be language in that media agreement that is solely directed at Florida State and Clemson.
Well, it might not be solely directed at them, but it may have been written with those two in mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. I do remember. I thank you for backing up because I wanted to make sure I heard you right because I remember that. I remember there was something about on the ticker ESPN, somebody leaving the SEC, and I think it was Florida State. I do remember something like that. I either remember the story or I remember people talking about the story.
Yeah, it was. If you remember, Greg, the big website that everyone was going out to was the West Virginia website with the dude of West Virginia and everything.
Yeah.
And I first heard about that story out there.
Okay.
Someone opened a thread about that very thing, and I've communicated with someone that I know has information, and it's a true story, and it also is true that Clemson and FSU were set to leave. And so the Notre Dame move coming into the ACC
caused ESPN to basically do a 180 and say, hold on, we're not going to rearrange anything. We got a chance to get Notre Dame here. So my thinking here is that they may have built some language into this media deal to make it easier for them to leave.
Yeah, I'm just trying to come up with what type of
because it's kind of a conspiracy theory sounding idea, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so when this whole thing started, now, Tristan, on December 26, 2022, now we're going to really go into it here. On December 26, 2022, I was all set up to do a live show, and we did a live show. If everybody who's listening to this show right now, if you go back into my YouTube channel and you go to the December 26, 2022 show, we got information at about 2 o'clock. At 2 o'clock, I went on Twitter and said, Florida State money perch. Florida State is going to try to get out of the gore. We got a big story. By about 5 o'clock that evening, I was asked to stand down on the story because, and I can't really get into it because people were working on it and da-da-da-da. But, so when we came on live, and I think it was 7 o'clock at night Central Time, I spent the first 30 minutes apologizing to everybody because I said, I did not mean to do a bait and switch, but I can't talk about what we're going to talk about. But then I did talk about some of it, saying that Florida State in a couple months from now is going to say something in public, which they did. Alford, the athletic director, made a statement on February 24th. But within all of that, Tristan, within all of this back and forth, getting a call from somebody, asking to stand down, later in March, I think it was March 31st, 2023, we did an update on this Florida State thing. And one of the I don't know what you want to call it, speculation, I don't even know what to call it, but one of those things was like Florida State might have some sort of language with the ACC in which Florida State gave up something, but the ACC has not fought. They did not get consideration back.
Right.
And now when they signed that amended grant of rights in 2016, their consideration on that was the ACC network.
Yes, that's right.
It sounds like Florida State is kind of arguing that they were kind of forced into that. I don't know what it is. But so when you bring up this whole Notre Dame thing, I'm just wondering again, I think back on talking to some people at the time, maybe there was something, okay, guys, Notre Dame, we got Notre Dame to come in. They're going to be part of the ACC network. We'll put some language in here that will give you guys some sort of an exit hatch if this thing goes pear-shaped, if the ACC network just goes whatever that is. And so now you're bringing up this theory, and it's interesting. Maybe there is something in that media agreement that is kind of a constructed exit hatch some way, somehow.
Yeah, I mean, if Clemson is now saying, I mean, apparently this is the case, right? I'm sorry, not Clemson, it's FSU that's causing this news that we're talking about now.
Yes.
But they're saying that it's, I mean, I forget the exact phraseology of what we're saying at the beginning, but they're implying that it's built in there that they can leave, right? And that they should be allowed to leave. Or I guess maybe that's part of Clemson's lawsuit. I'm getting them mixed up because I'm trying to keep up with both.
Well, me too. But yes, Florida State. I don't know if I'll be able to find the.
The significance here.
Florida State points out in this 10-page document that was filed tonight in Leon County that Clemson is making the same argument in its recently filed lawsuit against ACC in South Carolina. And the argument is that ESPN agreements extend only to home games played while Florida State remains a conference institution. After its exit, Florida State will cease to be a conference institution. So they're making the same argument, but Clemson really hammered it when they did their action in Pickens County, South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds to me like they both are kind of taking that angle and that saying that there is some language in there that lets them do this. And I really believe, Greg, that it has to be a byproduct of the fact that they almost left, 14 years ago or whenever it was. And that this probably had to be put in there as a safety mechanism so that they wouldn't be trapped. Because they were very close.
Yeah.
They were very close to leaving.
Interesting. I'm going to poke and prod on that, see if I come, if we can extend that theory a little bit more. Very interesting, Tristan. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
I know. It's a pretty amazing story.
Yeah.
That they came so close. I mean, it probably was going to be officially announced within a week or two.
Yeah.
And then Notre Dame did what they did, and that extended the ACC's life. But they never wanted to join the ACC full time. I think they were doing what they had to do to maintain their independence just to see what they could shake loose in the future. But I think they're headed to the Big Ten. Notre Dame is, and I'm not sure what Florida State's going to do. They could probably, I guess the chalk is still that they're going to go to the Big Ten, right? That's what everyone's saying.
Yeah, but I would not shut that SEC door. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I just wanted to give you that idea and let you think about it and see what everyone thought.
I'm going to poke and prod on that. Thank you so much, Tristan. Great phone call, sir.
All right. Thanks a lot. Keep up the good work, Greg.
You too. Call again.
All right. I will. Bye-bye.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Tristan brought up something. I'm going to poke and prod on it. Oh, my God. Country Roads 5150. ESPN has the ability to mitigate its damages if they can end the contract before 2036. This means they are not automatically entitled to the full TV value Florida State would have provided. ESPN has built in a remedy in eyes of the court. I agree, Country Roads. I agree. How can there be damages? How can there be a gore payout past 2027 when none of that is guaranteed? I absolutely agree. I think that is that is probably Florida State's best argument, in my opinion. Now, I don't know what that media agreement is between Florida State and maybe that's a better one between between the ACC and ESPN. That that Clemson talked about in Pickens County and what Florida State reiterated here in Leon County tonight, Wednesday night. But until we know what is in that ESPN-ACC agreement, that right there, Country Roads 5150, to me is Florida State's best argument to get to have leverage and to get a reasonable settlement to get out of the ACC. That is their best argument so far. Thank you so much, Country Roads 5150. Thank you so much for your super chat. That reminds me, Country Roads reminds me of something. April 3rd is the 1 year anniversary of the passing of Chris Petrie. Gold Blue dude. Great guy, great YouTube channel that he had. In a day or two after his passing on April 3rd, 2023, we at Peek Around the Corner, we did our PATC rendition of Country Roads. We put up images of him having a great time on his YouTube channel. We are going to do that again on April 3rd. We're going to put out an episode, a tribute to Chris Petrie, the incredible YouTube channel. But for him, his family, his loved ones, I'm going to go ahead and sing that song again and put up different images of Chris Petrie, the gold and blue dude, and what he did on that show. And he meant a lot. Gold and blue dude meant a lot to a lot of people. He quickly became friends of those who were just trying to put content out because they love college football. He came on the chat room. He'd say, "Greg, you're doing a great job." I had 320 subscribers, and then we started talking, and I was going to be on the show, and I know he did a lot for a lot of people who knew him longer. But he's had such an incredible tenacity, his work ethic. It was West Virginia mountaineer work ethic, grinding every single day. He was entertaining. He was passionate about his Mountaineers. I will never forget Chris Petrie's. I will never, ever, 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 ever forget when he did that live show. What was it? 2022. He went to the Pittsburgh Panthers West Virginia Mountaineers football game. West Virginia lost in a crushing. A ball went between their Wheaton, great wide receiver, West Virginia, picked off by Pittsburgh. They ran it back for a touchdown. It was just, West Virginia was winning that game by a touchdown with like 5-6 minutes to go. Pittsburgh won the game. And Chris Petrie did a live show as he's driving from the football stadium, Pittsburgh's football stadium, to his hotel room. He's got the phone set up, and he's so upset that his West Virginia Mountaineers lost, and people were trolling him, but he was professional about it. He just wanted to show that a college football fan, you get really happy when you win, you get really down when you lose. And he opened up his heart. He opened up his. I just thought that was the best content I had seen, because you could tell he was so down, but he let everybody see it. He had the speculation zone, and he was entertaining. Anyways, I could go on and on and on, but just seeing Country Roads with his generosity reminded me of Chris Petrie's incredible generosity to those of us who were just trying to kind of do a little bit of what he did all that time. So anyways, April 3rd, I'm going to be dropping an episode, Country Roads, West Virginia. Again, a tribute to Chris Petrie, gold and blue dude. Okay, I gotta get to some Jamie Thornton. Thank you so very much. Gifted a membership. Holy smokes. A Cloak and Dagger membership. Gifted Jamie Thornton. You are hereby Cloak and Dagger knighted once again. Mrs. Arkansas Razorback and Marcus Williams. Thank you for being an early Pete Cloak and Dagger member for the second month. Holy smokes. Giving CFB Mafia a run for their money, Flukes, with the late night shows. Keep up the hard work. You're much appreciated. Go Blue. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much for becoming, once again, early P Cloak and Dagger. You are knighted. Appreciate it so very much. Thank you. Okay, we got a call.
Call from
Immaculate.
Immaculate, Mr. Hawkeye. Can you just hold 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
We got somebody, yes, NE, you were gifted a membership by Jamie Thornton. Please say thank you to Jamie, and you are hereby Cloak and Dagger knighted. Congratulations to NE. If anybody wants to be an early P Cloak and Dagger member of our show, where you can watch Cloak and Dagger episodes, member only episodes in our YouTube channel, go to the link provided in the description box, hit the link, then hit the join button. Okay, Immaculate, Mr. Hawkeye, Leon County, there was a filing, a complaint by Florida State. We just can't read the 10 pages, but we did read what War Chant said. What do you say, Immaculate? What's going on?
Well, I think it seems pretty clear at this point in time. They don't really care. Whatever it's going to be, they're gone. It's just a matter of whatever it's going to be. Whether it's a get out free, or if there's a settled amount, or if it's the full amount that the ACC has said, doesn't seem Florida State cares.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to hear some of your callers and some of the things they brought up. It was very interesting. For me, though, kind of, since we get to do some theorizing tonight on the show, I like this late night stuff, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem at all personally saying the CFP absolutely is what got Clemson to file. I know you want some reportings, whatever, but to me, you reported, and others did, it wasn't just you, but others, that Clemson was on the verge, ready to file in the past. And unless that's just absolutely wrong, that would mean that this has been a process for them where they wanted to, and just something kept them from doing it. And when you have such a big finale with the CFP situation, I mean, that was stretched out for a while too.
Mm-hmm.
So, these two timelines are kind of correlating here. For when that ends in the way that it ended, with ESPN coming in and saying enough, and then boom, right after that, Clemson files, I just can't see how that could just be coincidence. I would go so far as to say anyone who wants to come in and say that it was and that there's no correlation, I'd go so far as that might even be purposeful gaslighting, because to me, I know it's not reported, but it's pretty obvious, right? It's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it might have been the last thing that Clemson needed.
Yeah, like a little bit just to tip over.
Yeah, and maybe internal politics or something, saying, see, look at this or whatever. But I don't think, I'm not buying, at least right now, I'll keep my, I don't want to be stuck in my silo, but I'm not buying that there's some sort of agreement in the CFP contract that makes it easier for the ACC to implode. I don't think Clemson's going to use that in their filing, for example.
No.
You know.
Yeah, go ahead.
But you know, but yes, it very well. Yeah, I agree with you, but you know.
Yeah, I don't quite get the part where there would be something in the CFP meeting that gives like outright ability to leave, unless these threats of the P2 breaking away really did take hold, and you know, this would be the agreement of we won't break away as long as if whatever needs to happen in terms of movement, you let it happen. I'm not on board with that yet. That seems maybe a bit much. I think that the schools who are left behind are going to try and get some money out of this. The suggestion that there's something in there would basically be saying that that's not the case and that there isn't going to be any payouts. So I think this is just about figuring out who's getting what for those being left behind. I think that this could break free real quick, though. I think this is probably a lot farther along behind the scenes than what we're seeing. Those words from the Board of Trustee chair at North Carolina, that says it all. I mean, that's more forward than what the Board of Trustees chair for Florida State was doing before that meeting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, when you look at the first situation and then you look at this one, I know people will be like, "Oh, they're not doing it, I get it, but it seems pretty obvious that North Carolina, whoever these factions are internally, the ones pushing for leaving are winning. I don't know. That's kind of what it seems like. So I think tomorrow, by the way, how many hours from now is that when you're going to be back on?
About 6 hours and...
It's wild.
Well, you know, what's going to happen is I'm going to have it on. I'm going to be commenting. I don't think the first hour or two is going to be all that important, right? For what we care about. So, I have to leave an hour into that. So I'm going to be coming back an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes into it. And maybe by that time, John Pryor will be on. Maybe it's going to be a big old dud. But there's a good chance it won't be a dud. That something is going to be said. So
I think it's good. Yeah, go ahead.
We're gonna cover it. I won't be in front of the mic the whole time, but it will be on. This will be a place for people to watch. Put down the chat, and then if something hits, we're all gonna hear it. And we're all gonna play it back, and and all that stuff. So
I think last thing I'll say here is this all seems so big and huge to everyone, myself included. But I think the reality is what's going on right now is actually just a small part of the actual big picture. Even after this happens, there's so much more that they have to work through. Governance issues, NTA issues, refiguring out contracts now. If some of these schools leave the ACC, who's going to get more, who's going to get less? Like this, as much as it feels like this should be a climax, this is kind of just the start. So they don't have a lot of time. I mean, they got this year to get this figured out. So they kind of have to push it, right? I mean, I know people think that it's going to happen slowly, but nothing about this has happened slowly. In fact, every single time we think when something's going to happen, it happens sooner. And I've never experienced that in realignment before. It's always usually gets extended and takes a while longer. But everything has happened sooner. It's almost to the point where I hate even trying to say when something might happen because it might happen sooner.
Yeah.
Tomorrow morning might be the day that's that thing that just breaks us all loose. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on, man. I'm going to head out of here. But
you got it.
Yeah, I think I think that CFP agreement really kind of kicked things off. So
Got it.
tomorrow could be a big one. Looking
Yeah.
forward to it. Have yourself a good night, buddy.
Yeah, you too. Thank you, Mr. Hot Guy. Great call. GT, Greg, I know that the Big Ten is focused on the Southeast. If ever in the future, do you see the Big Ten going to Texas? If so, do you see any potential Texas school the Big Ten would take, excluding Texas and Texas A&M? Yeah, they could go into Texas, obviously. If that scenario ever happens where the SEC goes by themselves, just leaves everybody, including the Big Ten, and has their own football, own playoffs, keep all the money, and then if the Big Ten wanted to do that, I think they would have to get into the state of Texas, to be honest. But besides that huge scenario that, if it does ever happen, it won't happen for years from now. Yeah, I still think the Big Ten could go into the state of Texas if they're ever going to go to 24. Any school outside of Texas and Texas A&M, TCU is sort of kind of reminds me a little bit of a Miami, Florida situation. Miami Hurricanes, but Miami is a research university. It's very difficult. It's very, very difficult at this point to separate the candidacies of a TCU, Houston, and Texas Tech when it comes to Big Ten. One of the great things that TCU has going for it, of course, it's the market that they're in, but TCU is a high academic school. They have their access is very, very high, which the Big Ten likes. So in that case, the TCU is a pretty good candidate. Very small university. Big Ten likes the universities big. Houston has, now their academic qualifications are not as high as TCU when it comes to the level of but Houston does have some unique research, very unique research going on down there, and they've come a long ways. They're no longer Cougs high, but would they be voted? Would the Big Ten presidents vote Houston in? No, not now. 10 years from now, maybe. In Texas Tech, not quite a Big Ten candidate right now. Again, if they have growth, if they kind of do what a Florida State has done, 10 years from now, possibly. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to separate those three schools' candidacy of the Big Ten. I would put Houston number 3. TCU and Texas Tech kind of locked in. Maybe give TCU just a little bit of an advantage. But I don't see the Big Ten going into Texas for the foreseeable future. I do not see Texas leaving the SEC. And no, there's been a lot of rumors about Texas A&M. People are reporting on it, looking to join the Big Ten. That ain't happening. It's not happening. You know what? I don't even bring that question up anymore. I used to bring it up. In fact, I brought it up to some people I talked to about 6 months ago, and they said, Greg, don't ever bring that up again. Texas A&M is not leaving the SEC. They got upset. They got upset when the SEC brought Texas in. But it's just the SEC just brings too much value to Texas A&M. And Texas A&M brings a whole lot of value to the SEC, and whole lot of money down there, and that whole lot of money doesn't want Texas A&M to leave the SEC. It ain't happening. It's not happening. Not happening. But anyways, thank you for the question. I do appreciate it. Yeah, Houston has unique research. They've grown a lot. Houston ain't the same Houston they were 10, 12 years ago. They're going to have that same type of growth to be considered a Big Ten candidate 10, 12 years from now. Nobody is a candidate right now. I would give TCU a little bit of an edge over Texas Tech. But Texas Tech may have a higher ceiling. Lorenzo Haynes, the state of Texas, is investing in Texas Tech in Houston. Yeah. State wants more AAU universities. Yep. So we'll see. We'll see what happens in next 5 to 10 years. Nothing imminent there, though. Nothing imminent. Okay, we're going to wrap it up. Wrapping up this live show. I got to get up. I got to get up in another 5 hours. I got to get the next show ready. We're doing a live show. So, look, I'm going to give you a warning. Tomorrow's live show might be a long dud. There might not be any fireworks. Okay? I think there's going to be, but I'm not sure. I can't guarantee it. We're going to show you the North Carolina live Board of Trustees meeting starting at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Mountain Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. So we're going to show it live. I'm going to start about 8:45 Eastern. And then at some point, if the meeting is going pear-shaped, it's boring, then we're going to talk about this Florida State story. We're going to have the case. We're going to be able to look at the 10 pages, and we'll dig into that. So it's going to be a lively show no matter what. And it's going to be a long one. Tomorrow morning, PATC breakfast. So if you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so yet, please hit the subscribe button, smash our like button for the show if you like the content, and open up those notifications. We're going to be coming on tomorrow morning early, so your phone's going to be going zzz. I hope you join us. It's going to be fascinating. North Carolina Board of Trustees. For tonight's show, I want to thank everybody with their donations, incredible comments in the chat room, and the great phone calls once again. Leon County, Florida State filed. We don't have the pages. We don't have the 10 pages, but we did bring up the War Chant article. They got the tip-off. They got the information. They reported on it. Great job by War Chant once again. And we gave you the best peek around the corner that we could provide. Florida State saying, look, many ACC fabrications in their filing. We'll see what happens. Stick with us here at Peek Around the Corner until next time, which is about 6 hours from now. Until next time. From all of us at PATC to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other.